These are my top 5 classics of all time. Well, top 7. I couldn't decide on 5. Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have to include the greatest duology of all time, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents as well. Octavia Butler is my favorite writer ever. Her writing is swift and surgical. I love every protagonist she's ever written. These are also 3 of the scariest books I've ever read in my life. Not because they're horror books per se, but the lived experiences of her characters and the world she created hit so close to home, it's hard not to be emotionally invested in her character. Be warned though, Octavia Butler books have a trigger warning for every trigger warning. Anna Karenina by Leo Tosti. I have a review on this that I did way back, but to be honest, any review of this book that's under like an hour won't be able to accurately describe how legendary it is. Anna Karenina is a beautiful love story that has the most fleshed out cast of characters I've ever read. The writing is so lush and fantastic, you might have to read a page 3 times. This is a beautiful love story, but that's just the cherry on top. It's also a crash and burn story, a story of human nature, a messy, royal, noble, petty drama. It even has the meaning of life. This is the greatest classic I've ever read, and this is a book that you gotta read at least once in your life. Lonesome Dub by Larry McMurtry. Come on, was there ever a chance that this wasn't gonna be on this list? Augustus McCrae, July Johnson, Captain Cobb, P.I., Deeks, Lorena, Clara, Jake Spoon. If you want to talk about unforgettable characters, quotables on top of quotables, a book that will stay with you long after you finish it, read Lonesome Dove. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is the perfect book to start with if you've never read a classic in your life. Not only is it a great book with fantastic writing that will literally blow your mind, but it's also a really good look into the subtle themes that a lot of classics tend to have that you might not notice unless you actively read and do some research on the history and the context of the book that you're reading. If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. This is another book that I have a review of, so I'm not gonna yap too much about it, but this right here is my favorite romance ever. James Baldwin writes about love like he is love itself. If Beale Street Could Talk is about the beautiful love of a young black couple in 1970s Harlem through all the imperfections that is life. This book was a little hard for me at first just because of the flow of the story. It's non-linear, so it jumps back and forth in time, but I stuck with it, and next thing I knew, I couldn't put it down. And also, the film adaptation of this, directed by Barry Jenkins, phenomenal. One of the best movies I've ever watched, and for me, it gave this book the clarity it needed for me to really fall in love with the story. Actually, guys, I lied. I have a few more books here because I just realized I'm missing some heat. Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, the greatest essay I've ever read in my life. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, the greatest autobiography I've ever read in my life. Sula by Toni Morrison. Sel and Nula are 2 of my favorite characters ever. Passing by Nella Larson. Passing walked so Sula could run. I'm gonna have to do a review on this because Nella Larson was a genius and she needs to be appreciated for real. And last but not least, The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. This is my favorite or my second favorite satire ever. It's hilarious and it's horrifying at the same time. It has an ending that will leave you just shell-shocked.